How's it going, everybody? And Galatians 3, last verse. Then we move into chapter 4. We read it all into King James yesterday. Didn't even glance at the other one. We can try that again today. If you be Christ, then you are Abraham's seed and heirs according to the promise. That goes back to this. This is the Friday Bible study. This goes back to, I believe it's Wednesday's study. And if it wasn't Tuesday's. You should always start these playlists from the beginning anyway. Now I say that the heir, as long as he is a child, differeth nothing from a servant, though he be Lord of all. What context are we getting into here? Think of it this way. If a father dies and leaves an inheritance, thank you, for his young children, those children are not much better off than the slaves until they grow up, even though they actually own everything their father had. They have to obey their guardians until they reach whatever age their father set. And that's the way it was with us before Christ came. We were like children. We were slaves to the basic spiritual principles of this world. But when the right time came, God sent his son, born of a woman, subject to the law. God sent him to buy freedom for us who were slaves to the law, so that he could adopt us as his very own children. And because we are his children, God has sent the spirit of his son into our hearts. This is sheep talking to sheep. This isn't the whole world. There are no free will decisions, of course. Prompting us to call out, Abba, Father. Now you are no longer a slave, but God's own child. And since you are his child, God has made you his heir. Paul's concern for the Galatians: before you Gentiles knew God, you were slaves to the so-called gods that do not exist. So now that you know God, or should I say that God knows you, why do you want to go back again and become slaves once more to the weak and useless spiritual principles of this world? Are you trying to earn favor with God by observing certain days or months or seasons or years? And we know in Colossians, we're not, observing holy days or any of that anymore, like we talked about a couple of days ago. And if you be Christ, then you are Abraham's seed and heirs according to the promise. Now I say that the heir, as long as he is a child, differeth nothing from the servant, though he be Lord of all, but is under tutors and governors until the time appointed of the Father. Even so we, when we were children, were in bondage under the elements of the world. But when the fullness of the time was come, God sent forth his son, made of a woman, made under the law, to redeem them that were under the law, that we might receive adoption of sons. And because ye are sons, God hath sent forth, because you're his, God hath sent forth the spirit of his son into your hearts. Who did it? See, that's why I wanted to read this into King James. God have sent forth the spirit of his son into your hearts. Faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of God. The word of God is Jesus. Jesus said, my sheep hear my voice. You got to be able to put this together, folks. Wherefore thou art no more a servant, but a son, and if a son, then an heir of God through Christ. Howbeit, when ye knew not God, ye did service unto them which by nature are no gods. But now, after that, ye have known God, or rather known of God, how turn ye again to the weak and beggarly elements, whereunto ye desire again to be in bondage? Ye observe days and months and times and years. All right, and we will now move about to Revelation 21, 7 through 15. He that overcometh shall inherit all things, and I will be his God, and he shall be my son. But the fearful, goats, and unbelieving goats, that's not just lip service, remember, and the abominable, goats, and the murderers, goats, and the whoremongers, goats, and the sorcerers, goats, and the idolaters, goats, and all liars, all goats, shall have their part in the lake which burneth with fire and brimstone, which is the second death. We went over that. yesterday and the day before. Hell is not eternal torment. The wages of sin is death, not torment, not torture. I'm going to have a whole chapter in my book about that. Book's coming along fantastically. I am going to self-publish that book. And there come unto me one of the seven angels, which had the seven vials full of the seven last plagues. Now, see, you were talking about the new heaven and the new earth, and all things are made new. And now that's what I tell you. Revelation is a book that comes in waves. It's the same story being told over and over and over and over and over. One of the seven angels had the seven last vials full of the seven last plagues, and talked with me, saying, Come hither, I will show thee the bride, the Lamb's wife. And he carried me away in the spirit in a great high mountain, and showed me that great city, the holy Jerusalem, descending out of heaven from God. We had just read that early in the chapter. Having the glory of God, in her light was like unto a stone most precious, even like a jasper stone, clear as crystal, and had a wall great and high, and had 12 gates, and at the gates 12 angels, and names written thereon, which were the names of the 12 tribes of the children of Israel. On the east, 3 gates, on the north 3 gates, on the south 3 gates, and on the west 3 gates. And on the wall of the city had 12 foundations, and in them the name of the 12 apostles of the Lamb. And he that talked with me had a golden reed to measure the city and the gates thereof and the wall thereof. I love you very much. That's Question of the Time. That's what I'm here for.